Welcome everyone. We're just letting everyone in through the waiting room, so just give us a moment as we put all this together. All right, so we've still got a fair few coming in, so I will just hold off a moment longer as everyone comes through. We're all over the country. Probably a little bit early for some of our Perth people. I think for, what is it, 11 here, so it's only 8 o'clock over there, so bright and early. Right, we'll get started. As always, we like to look after those on time, and they'll just keep filtering in as they go. So welcome everyone to the December edition of the webinar. We should probably start with a Merry Christmas. We're now in December, so we can say that. So I hope everyone has survives this month. So and we will talk a little bit about what December's like, particularly in small business, and where the dramas can come from. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about what has sort of worked and what hasn't worked through the course of this year, and put my Nostradamus hat on and give it a little bit of a prediction towards what we're looking at last year. So I guess where I'd like to start is just I'm not going to go into a lot of the stats like I normally do, because I think if your email inboxes are anything like mine, you will see someone's quoting stats almost every hour or two in an email to try and promote either borrowing money or taking out other loans or some other way of needing to do something. So there's no doubt insolvency stats are very high. They did have a quiet month in September, but when I say quiet, it was down. You know, the graph didn't just keep going upwards. I've got to get in the right screen here. There was sort of a half a dip, but it was still on the rise. From my perspective, I don't see there any let up in the insolvency rates. I think part of the issues that we're seeing is that the courts are so full at the moment that it's actually taking quite a long time to get court dates for those creditors who are aggressively trying to go after people, including the ATO. On that though, court appointments are up. We are seeing a lot more companies that are just letting it go through to court appointment. And some of those are active companies, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. Probably the other big note that I did want to mention is that credit defaults are continuing to rise at great knots at the moment. So the ATO must be finding that tool to be very effective in getting action taken. So the credit defaults, I think the last time we looked, is something like up over 100,000 credit defaults that the ATO's registered this year. So they are, you know, given that it's a relatively new tool they've got very excited about using it very regularly. So I think I think if we look at 2026 and what's likely to happen as we move forward over the coming year, there's no doubt that I see that continuing to rise. There's some commentary saying it will flatten. There's some commentary saying that we've hit the peak already. But certainly from the conversations that I'm having, there are still a huge amount of businesses that aren't addressing their issues and are almost waiting for something to happen. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go along as well. Before I get into that, though, there is something that I really want to talk, and some of you have heard me talk about this a little bit before, some of you wouldn't have, is one of the biggest issues that we're seeing in the marketplace at the moment is and it's around SBRs. So I want to start by saying that I'm still a fan of SBRs. I like SBRs. I think that they are an incredibly good tool for the right business. But what's happened is the marketplace has gone nuts in promoting it, and particularly coming from the insolvency industry, pushing into the accounting industry, into the finance industry, and into the legal industry. Everyone's got this rose-colored glasses on about how awesome it is, because if you're a small business, it must be the only option to use. Now, the truth is it's not the only option, but what's happening is because you as the trusted advisors are saying to a client, hey, they've got this thing called an SBR, that's probably the right thing for you. When we get to talk to them and actually provide them with a holistic review and advice, we're finding that they're so stuck on an SBR that they actually won't look at other options. So if there was something that I could get you to take away with you as those listening today, and then talk to others that you know, is please be aware that it's not the be all and end all. And sometimes what we're finding now is that clients, because their trusted advisors have said, hey, do the SBR, that's probably the best thing for you, they're not actually allowing themselves to look at all options that are available. And the ATO has completely and utterly changed their tune on how they're looking at SBRs. So 12 months ago, if you came to me with an SBR, and we could have pretty much written in stone that you were going to get across at 20 cents in the dollar, 21 to 23 cents in the dollar, you would get a deal done. The ATO would vote it up every time. In the last month and a half, that average has now risen to nearly 47 cents in the dollar is the minimum payment that needs to be made on an SBR. And on top of that, they're rejecting nearly 50% of SBRs. So you need to be very clearly the right type of business in the ATO's mind to fit into the SBR category that's going to work now. And it's very, very difficult. And what's been become a real issue for us in terms of looking after clients and guiding them correctly is that the ATO themselves are actually telling clients that they should look at doing an SBR. I've got to give you a live example that we've got at the moment. A restaurant in rural Victoria, an older couple running a restaurant. Things were going really, really, the business was a reasonably good business. They did have some personal health issues, had the COVID issues that everyone had. They had a tax debt. This lady was talking to the ATO every day before we got involved. Every day she would speak to them, talk to them about what they're doing. The best communication I think I've ever seen from a client, almost probably over communication, you could say. Through the course of that communication, one of the ATO officers suggested that she should do an SBR because they were struggling to meet the requirements under the payment plan that they required to tick off within the system. So she spoke to her accountant. Her accountant came to us and said, look, the ATO said that she should do an SBR. Can you help guide her through it? So we had a look at it. And we'd actually said to her that we actually think you're better off doing a restructure and a pre-pack more than doing an SBR because we think you're going to have troubles getting the SBR over. This lady went, no, the ATO told me to do an SBR, so they'll obviously support me. So we, again, we're here for the client. We gave our advice, but said that we would support in the SBR, so we did. We put her into a small business restructure. We worked through the offer, and the offer originally was at about 25 to 30 cents. We then helped with the client's permission. We actually got up to 55 cents in the dollar, and the ATO still rejected it. Now, one of the reasons why they rejected it was that she was non-compliant for a period. Now, here's the kicker for you. The non-compliance was for a period of 8 months. She's the bookkeeper in the front of house. The husband's the chef and back of house in this restaurant. She was in hospital for 8 months dealing with cancer. So now we all know that a business doesn't stop just because someone's sick, but you would think that that would be a compassionate ground to go, okay, we understand you probably missed a little bit, but you've caught up now. Payments were still being made during that 8 months, by the way. There wasn't the lodgements of the BASs. but that was one of the key reasons why the ATO actually rejected the SBR because of her non-compliance during that 8-month period. Now, they would have known that when they offered it to her, but because it goes to a different department, the mindset of that department in the SBR department will be different to that in the payment plan department. So the reason why I tell this story is because you, as our referrer base and the people who are seeing and talking with your clients before they get to us, you need to be really aware that just because the media and the I know not everyone's going to can see because they've got their camera shut, but some of you might remember about 4 months ago, there was 4 or 6 months ago, there was a ABC. ABC did a thing on the SBRs, and there was a pub in Albury in Perth, down at the bottom end of WA, that had done an SBR and got it for 20 cents in the dollar. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but that is almost one of the most quoted news articles or video articles that I find when clients come and see us. So there was this pub in Perth that got it for 20 cents in the dollar. That was 12 months ago when it was easy. Now that the times have changed, the attitude of the ATO has changed. And because of that, the clients who believe that, this worked for them, so it must work for me, that attitude is now something that's just not going to fly. And these clients need to have a much more broader look and broader view on things. One of my staff prompting me for something now. Thanks, Farah. I'll come back to that. So I guess my point is that when you've got a client who is coming to you because they are in financial distress, please be a little bit mindful of getting their mind locked on a form of insolvency before you get there. You all know that it doesn't cost your client or you anything for us to sit down with them and let us give a really informed, broad and all-encompassing review of their situation to come up with the best example, and be careful not to overcommit or I don't think you overcommit as referrers. I don't believe you overcommit the client, but one word from you can be super, super powerful. So please be a little bit mindful of that. They are not working anywhere near as well as they were 12 months ago. And the big problem that happens is, so we're back to this lady with the restaurant, because it got rejected, she's paid the SBR practitioner a fee. She's paid us a fee to do the SBR work, but in going into an SBR, the director needs to sign a document saying that I believe I'm insolvent or likely to become insolvent. So even under an SBR, when it fails, you just keep running the company and you move forward with the company. The problem is that you now have made that declaration, and so you still need to do something with the company. So now we're going back to having to do the restructure for this company. The ATO won't get anything. This is the stupid thing, right? These guys would have got about 120 out of their 190,000 debt. Under the restructure, they're going to get almost nothing out of it now. But we all know the ATO is not commercial. And the concept of actually getting their money is not something that's it's not as high as on the list as you would think it would be. It's about ticking a box and moving a file forward. So just something I want to be aware of, you all to be aware of, but particularly when you look at the numbers at the moment, there are more businesses holding tax debt than probably ever before in the history of Australia. So there are a lot that are trying to find ways through, and they will come to you at some point. Now I will, because it's in the chat, Farah, one of our magnificent strategy support officers in our Queensland office, so garnishes are a really big thing that the ATO are using a lot of at the moment. and the ATO had garnished a square. So the little square cards that they use for FPOS, they put a garnishee on that square, and that garnishee actually held through the SBR process. So until the debt is approved or the offer is approved, the ATO can continue to garnishee. And that actually applies if they garnishee wages and you go into bankruptcy. So if you have a client that needs to go into bankruptcy and the ATO attacks them before they appoint a bankruptcy trustee and put a garnishee on their wage, that wage can hold through the full 3 years of the bankruptcy. But if you go bankrupt before they issue a garnishee notice, they have no power to issue a garnishee notice after the event. So again, the timing, working with clients and the timing is really, really important to try and get the best result for them. So the other thing, and it's a little bit in that airy-fairy space, I guess, is talking about clients that seem to have a false hope. So one of the other things that we've seen a lot of this year is that we've had a lot of clients who are in significant financial issues. They've got significant tax debt. We talk about solutions for them, but they still believe that we've still got this hope, I guess, that the magical next job is going to solve the problem. Now, for those of you who came to our seminar, we talked a little bit about this and the fact that getting a client to understand how much extra and how much extra profit they need to make to be able to sustain payment plans is something that really I could not stress enough that when you're talking to clients, make sure that they're aware that, let's say it's a $300,000 ATO debt, and they think that they're going to make profit. We all know that they need to make nearly $1 million profit to be able to do that on top of the profit that they would need to make just for their normal year. So paying back legacy debt comes at a really significant increased profit margin. And if we look at what's going on in Australia at the moment across all states, profit margins are dropping in every industry. I don't think you will find an industry that's really flourishing from a profit margin point of view. They're either holding their current profit margins. In most cases, they're going down. I met with a restaurateur who's got 4 restaurants yesterday, and he reckons he's saying that his profit margins have eroded by about 20%, 20 to 25% from just 12 months ago. And we all know restaurants and cafes are probably one of the hardest hit at the moment. But that's not even talking about what's happening from a drop in revenue point of view. That's just purely his profit margins or his gross profit margins that he was talking about. So again, when we're talking to clients about how we're going to get through it, and they start talking to you about, hey, yeah, I should be able to get a payment plan in place. I should be able to move forward with this because I'm going to get this magnificent job, or Christmas is coming and life's going to be great after Christmas. Try and take the time to explain to them just how much extra money is required to be able to do that. Because what's happening, and I'll give you another example of a client here in Melbourne. They're a confectionery business. They were doing quite well. Profit margins start dropping. Some of their international stuff went. They borrowed money, as everyone seems to be doing at the moment, and then they were getting into trouble because they couldn't afford to pay that back. Long story short, he couldn't pay his staff anymore, so he had to shut the doors. Now, the business had assets in it. Some of it was unencumbered, but we had all perhaps over the top from this extra money that had been lent. So, but he always believed that there was going to be a white knight turn up that was going to solve the day because he loved his product so much, and he had stock. So even though he'd lost his staff, he was still selling stuff and just ticking things over. Long story short, again, ATO was pursuing him. Stayed with, hey, let the DPN expire that he received because, hey, this is all going to work out. And he ended up in a court-appointed liquidation. Now, the problem is that there was significant money in terms of net assets in there. So auctioneer came in, went, yep, you can make a couple of 100 grand out of all the equipment. And he had no interest in trying to sell the business as a going concern. It wasn't actually going, so I don't necessarily blame the liquidator for that. But it wasn't actually going. But we had all these assets. What happened was because the liquidator didn't see any true value in the business because it was shut, all of a sudden the brand name started being stolen by other people because he didn't really care about it. In the end, he did sell it to someone who wanted to buy it and restart it up. But then the person who was trying to buy it had struggled to get access to the domain names and brand names. Now, why I tell that story again is not so much, there could have been things that we did. Unfortunately, he drained his resources of cash, so he couldn't afford to engage anyone. But he kept living in this false hope that some miracle was going to come. The problem again now is that the liquidator's done well. It has been bought, and our client, the director, wasn't actually our client, but the director of the company is now lost his business and that he'd spent 10 to 15 years building up. He's trying to weasel in with the new owner because he knows some stuff about it, but he's lost the ownership of that business now. Again, the reason why I tell the story is that that's not an isolated incident of what clients are just living in this false hope, believing that there's going to be some miracle come. And that's across Australia. I think it's particularly a big issue in Victoria, but having talked to clients in Perth and in Queensland and New South Wales, we are seeing it everywhere. So it's something that you all need to be mindful of when talking to your clients, is to try and get a little bit of reality back into their minds. I didn't say it before, but if anyone's got a question, if they've got any issues that they want to mention without names and you want to talk about it, please, I'd love this to be more interactive than you guys just listening to me for 30 to 40 minutes. So if anyone's got something, even a comment or something that they're seeing in the marketplace, please jump in at any time. Oh, sorry, Janelle, I didn't mean to daze you. One thing I will, so we're coming into the Christmas period, and that's always a really joyous period. We all have fun. But for business owners, it can be a really, really tricky period. So you are going to see a lot of advertising, and if you're seeing it, it's going to be 10 times more for your clients who are in distress. They will get that advertising. I don't know how the algorithms work, but you can sit there and think about the fact that you need to find some money to pay staff, and then all of a sudden 5 things pop up on your phone. I don't know how it works. I'm not even going to get into that part of it. But what I will say is that the cash crunch can come in 2 ways for businesses coming into this Christmas period. And over the last 15 years of being involved in this side of the business, it doesn't change from year on year. So you've got the retail, hospitality, all that area, that's all building at the moment. So they're doing very well at the moment. They're buying a lot of stock. Most of that stock they don't need to pay for until the new year. So they'll be ordering it now and putting in their invoices that need to be paid in January. But their bank accounts start looking a little bit fuller than normal. They start getting that hope that life is great, and they forget that it's actually a really peak period. And they do very well during that period. What happens though, without fail every year, we deal with this, is that you come January, and then we all know that BASs are actually not due till February in this fight if they're on a quarterly BAS. all of that money come January gets used up trying to survive January and paying some of the suppliers and what have you. All of a sudden, you end up with some significant bills that can't be paid in January and February. So now that there's not a lot that you can do about that apart from reminding clients that just because they've got extra money in the bank account doesn't mean that they've actually made more money, because the net profit of that obviously takes a month or two to flow through. And although the ATO has been very generous in giving that extra month in February for BASs, that often creates huge hurdles for business moving forward. And I think you'll see anyone who's late or lodges and doesn't pay in February will be attacked in March very quickly by the ATO. They are proving to be very their systems have got so much better now that when someone's lodged BAS and don't pay it, within a week or two, we're seeing demand letters coming out and they're starting to harass and chase hard. So that's one side of it. So they're the businesses that you're not likely to call me in December about, but will potentially become a problem in late January, early February. The other side of those businesses that go into shutdown now, so the construction, a lot of manufacturing, even a lot of professional services firms where things shut down towards the last week of before Christmas, and then they won't open up again until the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, the 10th, somewhere around there. If you're unlucky enough to be in Victoria in January, you would all know that Victoria doesn't open up until after Australia Day. It is just the most dead city from business point of view in January. So businesses like that have a huge wage and cash burden with a clear knowledge that they're not going to get a lot of income coming through between the end of December or the last week of December, sometimes through to the 15th, 20th of January. Now, unfortunately, just about every year of my 15 years in this game, the week before Christmas, I've had a call from a business owner going, I no longer have the ability to pay my staff's wages coming into Christmas, because they were living in the hope of someone to pay a bill. One of their big suppliers or one of their big customers was going to pay, and they don't. And then you have to do a major shutdown and stand down of staff just before Christmas. So if you have clients that are in any of those industries that have that shutdown period, please talk to them early, because some of them will do really desperate things and get finance at 30 and 40% because they want to do the right thing by the staff, and it's very admirable, but it kills your business a couple of weeks later. So they are two things that happen almost every year, that you need to be aware of. And if you've got clients that fall into either of those two categories, then I'd highly recommend some conversations with them about trying to get a bit of control. If you do have some, particularly with the December issues, before they go and do the ridiculous lending, please give any of our team a call, and we can talk through some of the options to manage that through. Because it's I've had the unfortunate pleasure pretty much every year of having to go out to a site with a director, holding their hand effectively while they tell their 15 staff, their 20 staff, that they're needing to go into liquidation and that they're not going to get their Christmas holiday wages. And I can tell you it's not a fun experience. And I'm the consultant side of that. I'm not the actual director who's having to make those calls. So it is a really desperate period. We've got a number of clients that are really struggling to get paid. I think if you look at creditor, some of the reports coming out of Creditor Watch, the debtor days are blowing out almost every month at the moment. So there's more and more people who aren't paying their bills, which then means the next one can't pay their bill and the next one can't pay their bill. So there's some of the short-term issues that I just wanted to highlight. I'm not trying to scare. I'm really just trying to give everyone a little bit of insight, I guess, on what we're seeing, so that if you have clients in that space, that you can talk to them now before it sort of blows up in a couple of weeks' time. From a longer term perspective, when we're talking about probably the next 12 months, as I said at the start, unfortunately, I'm relatively confident that we've still got a long way to go in this cycle of distress. And I honestly believe that we're not seeing the heights that it's at, because we still have a lot of people living in that hope. I can rattle off probably 50 clients that have come to us who have said, I'm going to see if I can survive, and have done nothing to do anything about dealing with their debt, in the hope that something's going to come back and make life a little bit better. And if I've got 50, everyone else has got hundreds of thousands. So there are a lot of businesses out there that are living on the hope that the ATO won't move on them, or believe that they're still the friendly ATO from COVID days, and they're not. So I think probably everyone here listening has had the conversation. Well, surely if they want to get their money somehow, so they're not going to, shut me down, because surely if I pay them over 5 years, that's better than not getting any money at all. We all know that that's not the way the ATO thinks, and therefore it's something that we need to be a little bit more mindful of. So from a long-term perspective, I think we are going to see a real increase in the insolvency market. We are going to see, hopefully, a lot more people wanting to be proactive about solving the problem, rather than waiting for it to just go away or sort itself out somewhere. So we hopefully will move to that period where we're going to get a lot more people being proactive, and coming up with their solutions, because there are a lot of solutions, and the more time you've got, and before, I've got another client who's a gym. They only came to me about 3 weeks ago. They're part of a franchise group, so there's a bit of complexity in dealing with a franchise group. We all know that gyms have a lot of equipment, so they got the equipment financed there, but the business has been struggling for a while they try and turn it around. So he's gone and got a speedy business loan, and then he's got a BizCap loan, and then he's got this loan and a that loan and a that loan. And then he comes to me and he goes, I can't afford to make all the payments. I've now actually turned the business around and I'm making good money, but it's all been eaten up in finance. So, but in those situations, it's actually much harder for me to help, because they're all secured loans. And it's not just secured on the equipment. The equipment loans are actually relatively easy to deal with. But the all PAPs become difficult, because if I want to do a restructure of the business, I need to be able to get their permission to do it. And that can be a really complex process. They've all got hidden in their clauses caveatable interests. So he's got a house that's probably exposed to twice as much money as the house is worth after and particularly after the mortgage and the second mortgage that he took out to try and keep things alive. So the hope issue causes a lot of issues, because they keep borrowing money, but we've got time now that he's recognised that we need to do it. We can start coming up with some plans to try and help them through. But it would be better if they're doing it before they give away all the money that they have to the financiers. And that becomes a real issue, I know, for you and for us, because if they come to you for help and you need to do more detailed cash flow forecasts and all this sort of stuff, the problem is a lot of them don't have the money to be able to pay you for that. So if you're waiting to get paid up front, or you want to know that there's some money there, or even if you're kind-hearted and you do the work, you getting paid takes longer, because all of these predatory lenders. I'm just going to be brutal about it and call them what they are. These predatory lenders, they require direct debits. And because you've given them access to their accounts, they know what day's got the most money in it each week. And they will take it out on that day, their money each week. So they look at the accounts, they've got access to the accounts, and they take it out. So therefore, you've got no money left to be able to pay other people. So it then starts this vicious cycle of people not being able to move forward. So I say sometimes I can sound really negative and that the world's going to blow up. I'm not. I actually think that the business will improve. There will be a lot less businesses in the marketplace, but those businesses that remain and survive and can get through any of their legacy issues will be the surviving businesses that can make very good money again as business owners. But that's going to take another year or two before we're there. So helping a business survive this next period of time is a very exciting thing to do, and I think it's a very possible thing to do, but they need to be really focused on how they do that moving forward. That's probably about it for me. I'm hoping you can find some positive in all of my talking about all the stuff that's going on. A couple of things I just want to lead into about next year. To get a really clear picture of where the ATO's attitude is for 2026. Our first webinar for 2026 will actually be with the ATO. So it will be on the 12th of February. They've confirmed that we're going to have one of the senior debt recovery people. Unfortunately, it's not Anita because they've moved her to a different department for those who have listened to her over the last couple of years. But we do have the ATO coming on the 12th of February. There will be the usual communication stuff come out about that in due course. But put a bit of a note in your diary because I think that will be really fascinating to see, and we'll be asking the tough questions about what they're doing with SBRs, how they're using the default notices and garnishes, and that it's really interesting. For those of you who haven't heard them speak before, they have this, and probably rightfully so, but they have this attitude that their good governance by being brutal with people ensures fairness in the marketplace. That they're almost like a cop. And if you take an example of a cafe, one across the street from each other, one's got $100,000 tax debt and isn't paying their debt well, the other one is struggling and fighting and paying their tax debt every month. For them, they believe the ATO's attitude is the one that isn't paying their tax debt is anti-competitive in the marketplace. So they see it almost as their duty to get them either to catch up and pay or to get out of the marketplace. So it's a really interesting mindset that they have about why they do what they do. And that's what coming back to that, it's not always about getting paid. They just want that coffee shop that isn't paying their tax as and when it falls due. They want them out because that way they're taking away competition from the client that's actually doing the right thing and paying. So please look out for that in early February. We are having in-person seminars coming up in late February and early March. So please keep an eye out on your email for those throughout the country. We're actually partnering with a company called ATO Mate. I'm sure some of you are using them, but and others may not, but with your own providers. One of the things about the ATO Mate is that we're going to be able to show you exactly where to look in the portal stuff to be able to highlight and identify clients that might need that help, that strategic help before it's too late. So we're very excited about that seminar series. So look out for that in late February, early March. The other thing is we are shutting down like most firms do between just before Christmas through to about the 5th of January. But you on our website you'll find Hank's and my mobiles and our emails. And I hope most of you have all of that contact information anyway. If you have anything urgent come up through that period, where Hank and I are both available, and we will have the ability to deal with issues for clients that come up through that period. Again, unfortunately, it happens regularly. So we will be available, and we've got our team coming back pretty quickly in the new year because we anticipate it's going to get off to a fairly fast start. Just catch up on some of these notes here. We've got Natasha said, if anyone has clients in the Queensland building construction who are having concerns on their financial position, please reach out to me at the QBCC sooner rather than later so that we can discuss options and potential pathways. Really good comment. Thank you, Natasha. So Natasha, for those in Queensland, actually spoke with us at our last seminar. She certainly got a lot of knowledge and power and an ability to help. So rather than put your hand in the sand, talk to the QBCC earlier. So thank you for that. Janelle, unfortunately, the cop-style attitude is difficult for the ordinary taxpayer to cope with. Yeah, Janelle, I'm not sure that compassion is something that will actually a corporate machine or beast is really able to do. It is very true, though. If you get the right person with a bit of compassion within the ATO, you can do a whole lot more stuff than you can do if you get someone who doesn't have the compassion. So I'll finish up on that note, unless there are any other notes or comments that anyone would like to raise. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart for all of your support for the year, not only with the firm as a whole, but for those of you who have supported this webinar. It started from very humble beginnings in a spare room in my house in the middle of COVID, and 4 years later, or over 4 years later, now we're still running them and having some pretty good numbers. So thank you very much for your support. Thank you for the support for the firm. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas, a very safe and happy New Year. And I look forward to seeing you all again very much in the new year. Thank you.